ask something I've always wanted to ask. Who came first, the Blues Brothers or Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis?
Yeah, we were the Bruise Brothers first.
Yeah.
Okay, did that inspire you?
Actually, no.
So how did you come up with the look and the?
I mean, really, the look was when we were growing up, we always tried to dress kind of sophisticated, and but we couldn't afford suits, so we would go to thrift stores and get like suits, get old suits that cost like $10, $15, and then we'd have a tailor or somebody, tailor them up a little bit for us.
Okay.
I have a picture in the studio. Matter of fact, there's a picture of Terry. When I met Terry, he had a red, black, and green bass, and literally there's a picture in the studio. I think Terry may be 16 years old with his red, black, and green bass, fedora, suit, like that was just.
I'm gonna pull it up. Hold on.
You have it. Okay. Because that to me is the thing. Like everybody said, well, how did you get the style? And for us, it was just a matter of trying to afford stuff. We couldn't afford anything, but you could go get nice hats and you could get a nice little suit, and you could have a nice little look, And so that was, I think, back when we were kids. That's what we always did. So that's kind of where the look came from, and then we just got known for the hats and the sunglasses because we just kind of continued with it. We liked the look of it, and just kind of, I don't know. That's just us. That's we call it. It's our superhero outfit.
Yeah, superhero look.
Yeah, exactly. Some people have capes, and for us, it's the hats and sunglasses.
Okay, so I've noticed over the years, it's kind of like you're stars, but then you're not. Is that intentional?
Yeah, we never really wanted to be. Our intent was never to be known necessarily. I think we wanted to be respected for what we did. And I think we were cognizant of the fact that producers weren't necessarily recognized. Their importance in making records maybe wasn't recognized. So
right.
Our circumstances of coming out of a group that was, very well recognized and very popular, we thought that was kind of cool, because it gave visibility to record producers. And so we thought that was kind of cool, but we weren't like, people joke like, oh, we're going to be all up in every video and all that. We never did that. You never really hear like the sonic identifiers where every record that we make comes on and we go Jam and Lewis or that kind of, we never got into that. Our thing was always to make the artist look good. That our job was to make the artist look great.
I have no idea who you might be referring to, but go ahead.
Well, various people.
A lot of people.
But I'm not knocking it. I mean, it's absolutely fine, but that was not what we set out to do. But we do like the recognition that it shines on people behind the scenes, the record producers, the people that write the songs, the songwriters. I mean, that was always our thing. So I think that part of it is a great thing.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Terry. I'm sorry.
No, I said the best way to stay in the picture is to get out of the way. Mm-hmm. Like, we try to stay out of the way of the artist and let the artist shine through and support them in any way we possibly can. And, occasionally we might show up in the video, but very seldom. That's not what we're here for. We're here to just do what we're supposed to do behind the scenes.
So at this point, after so many years, are you glad you did it that way? Or were there times that you wanted more recognition?
No, I'm not glad or happy. That's just our way. I mean, that's how we feel comfortable. That's the most comfortable way for us. Mm-hmm. We never did anything that was out of character. Mm-hmm. We can do the stage thing now. If one thing they say, I'm a great dramatic actor. Like, I could act a fool. I could be up on the stage. That's fine. But truly, like, behind the scenes is where it all gets done anyway. That's where the nuts and bolts are. And the rest.
It's interesting too, because there's Richard Dreyfuss, the actor back in the day. He had a way that he talked about sort of the idea of fame, and he said the perfect balance to him is where you have enough recognition where you can get a table at a restaurant, maybe a full restaurant, but you can get a table based on that. But then once you get to table, when you get your dinner, you can actually get through the dinner without being bugged because nobody's going to really bother you. And I think that's a good metaphor for kind of Terry and my, fame or whatever you want to call it, is that we can get into a nice restaurant and that's cool, but then people are very respectful to us. I always thought it would be really hard, in working with, Janet, obviously, but working with Michael, like to have him have a conversation with him. He can't even have a conversation with people because when people come up to you and they're going, oh my God, you can't have a conversation with somebody like that. And that's too bad. And I think people, when they see us, they come up and they're very respectful and they just go, hey, I like what you guys do. And that, and now we can have a conversation. And I love that. I love that people feel like they have something in common with us and that we're just guys. We're just here. We do what we do. So we love kind of where we're at. I don't think we would change really a thing.
So a late night run to the 7-Eleven, no glasses, no hat, no jacket. Do people recognize you?
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Really?
Sometimes, yeah.
It's the most unlikely thing too, because a lot of times it'll be like at the grocery store or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just have our, we're usually in baseball caps. If we're not in our hats, we're in our baseball caps at least. And so we'll, but people will recognize, and the other thing is probably it's been a little bit of time now, but probably 5 or 6 years ago, we both had sons that were playing AAU basketball. So we'd go to all these AAU games and stuff, and people would recognize us there.
Mm-hmm.
But we would just be like, we wouldn't be dressed up. I mean, we'd be like just ready to sit in the gym all day. And people would go, ain't you Jimmy Jam Terry Lewis? And we go, no, we're Tyler's dad, or we're, Max's dad, or Terry's son, Talon. I'm just Talon's dad. And it was great because people would go, oh, your sons are playing? Oh, that's cool. That's cool. And so now then we had that in common, so
right.
It was great.
So let me go way back. I want to ask a couple of questions I've always wanted to ask. It has been said, and I want to make sure I'm clear on this, that you guys were fired from the time when you were late for a session. Is that the truth by Prince?
Better than late for a session. We missed a gig.
Okay.
We were, the story goes that we had gotten asked to produce some songs for SOS Band.
Right.
And so we were in New York. We had 4 days off in New York. And we thought we'd take those 4 days and go down to Atlanta and do SOS Band before the next Time concert, which was going to be in San Antonio, Texas. So we go down, we do, we work with SOS Band. Driving to the airport to catch the flight to San Antonio, it starts to snow. But the snow is not like snow, like we're from Minneapolis, so snow is snow to us.
I'm from Buffalo. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
I'm from Buffalo.
Yeah. You know what? And I got to tell you, Buffalo's weather was the most like Minnesota. So when we were on tour back in the day, Buffalo totally reminded me of Minneapolis.
Okay.
So anyway, we also share the fact that we've had football teams that have lost in the Super Bowl for us.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we share that in common. But anyway, so we go to the airport. We literally, the way the Atlanta airport is, for people that don't know, like there's
huge
terminals, right?
Yeah.
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
We were booking any plane we could get. We were just like, if we could just get out of town, because they just shut the airport down. And then we even thought, maybe we'll drive. What's the closest place we could drive to and catch a flight out of there if it's not snowing? And this is before, GPS and all that other stuff that could have figured it out for you. And we ended up missing the gig. And the story was that Prince thought we had gone down there to see some girls.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, when we saw him afterwards, he said, that's what you get for going down and seeing girls in Atlanta or whatever. And we were like, yeah. So then the thing that busted us was Billboard magazine, right? Used to come out every week, have all the charts.
Right.
So the next week Billboard that came out, there's a picture of Terry and myself with the SOS Band.
Oh, wow.
And we're like literally, and Prince would always have the billboard, and we were like hiding his billboard, right? Like any room we'd walk in and see Billboard magazine, we were like tucking it under our coats, and like it was crazy. But finally he saw it, and we ended up subsequently getting fired. The good news of the story is the night we got fired, we went to the studio and mixed what ended up becoming our first big hit, which was Just Be Good to Me by the SOS Band.
I was going to ask if you remember the song. Yeah.
It was just Be Good to Me. And Steve Hodge was our engineer. And Steve Hodge, we hadn't even met Steve Hodge yet. We just knew his name from, he was Leon Silver's mix guy. Back Leon Silver's the third great engineer, a great producer. And Steve, we saw his name on the liner notes of all the songs. And we said, we got to get that guy to mix our song. So anyway, that's how we got Steve Hodge to mix it. And we walked into the studio and he said, oh, nice to meet you guys. What's wrong? And we said, oh, we just got fired from the Time. And he said, well, I don't think you guys have anything to worry about because this song you guys got here, this is a smash. And he was right. And it was. So,
and then they're just coming off of Take Your Time, not too long before that. Were you nervous about that?
No.
Not really. We're too young and dumb to be nervous.
Okay. Okay.
And actually, we had a record on them on the previous album with High Hopes.
Oh, yeah.
It was produced by Leon Silvers. So we didn't produce it, but we had written it. So, you know, we thought it was pretty good, but we always thought we could have gave it a little bit more life just in our production, because the demo was really funky. It was
better than the song that came out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, it was called the bathroom bedroom demo.
Yeah.
Didn't you guys redo that with Deborah Cox? Was that Just Be Good to Me?
She redid Just Be Good to Me. We didn't do it. Dallas Austin, I think, produced it.
Oh.
And Dallas was a big fan of ours, and we were a big fan of his. And so it was kind of cool. But he always wanted to remake the song, so they ended up redoing it, which was very cool. And he also did. Dallas was also involved with TLC remade Get It Up by the Time. Right. So they were just that whole Atlanta scene was just big fans of Minneapolis, what we were doing. So that was kind of nice. That was very cool.
So after you guys got fired, did you ever make amends with Prince, or were you ever friends with him after that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, we were like brothers. You know, and I always like to say that, tell people all the time, a relationship with a guy like Prince is always a little in and out. So, but he's like your little brother. You know, you can talk about him, but nobody else can. So that's our relationship. You know, we love each other, but we got to fight. We had to fight. And so the relationship was, as a mentor, was great just because he showed us so many different things and gave us all types of opportunity just by putting us on. But then when we tried to get our own stride, he never wanted us to be our own men. So we kind of grew out of that part of the relationship, which caused friction. So when he fired us, or freed us, as I like to say, it just gave us, you know, room to grow again back together. And I talk to him all the time. Spend a lot of time with him.
So the best things can come out of the worst things. I mean, the night that you didn't catch the flight, you were probably going crazy, but look what happened. It was actually a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, well, it wasn't even disguised. It was right there before us. There's nothing we could do about it. It was only missed 2 gigs in my life. One, I got in a car accident on the way to the gig, and the second one was the one we missed, the plane in the snowstorm. And the feeling was excruciating because it wasn't even about missing the gig. It was about letting the fellas down.
Right.
Okay.
You never want to let your bandmates down. You know, those are your brothers. You don't want to not be there for them.
Right.
And that's what felt so bad. You know, we knew the repercussions. We were going to get fined or whatever. We didn't care about that. You know, not letting down your brothers.
So after all that happened, you're on a roll, you're doing SOS. At what point did all the other work start coming in? Like right away? Were you like consistently busy from that first SOS project?
Yeah, we absolutely were. When the SOS Band happened, literally, I remember right after that, I think we did, I know we did Change of Heart. We went over to Italy to do that. But we did that. We did Cheryl Lynn Encore.
Oh, I loved Encore. Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite Terry Lewis bass lines ever on that song. That's funky. But yeah, we started doing that, and then we started getting things even expanded because we started doing things like the Heat of Heat for Patty Austin. We did, of course, Alexander O'Neal and Sherelle, Saturday Love, and those records. So yeah, I mean, it just, because once Clarence, we met Clarence, that was SOS Band, and then Sherelle, and then, you know, we Didn't Mean to Turn You On with Sherelle, and then Robert Palmer remade that into his version of Didn't Mean to Turn You On. So yeah, things ramped up really quickly. But it was interesting because there was a columnist in Minneapolis named John Bream who did kind of our first kind of interview. And first thing he said was, "You guys are the hottest producers out there," or whatever. And it might have been around the time when Control happened. And I said, "Well, we don't really want to be the hottest producers. We just want to be warm for a long time." And I reminded him of that actually, well, fairly recently. We just celebrated the 5th anniversary of Unbreakable, the last Janet album that we did with Janet. We just had the 5-year anniversary. And I remember he interviewed us when that album came out. And when the album debuted at #1, he said, "You guys realize you've had #1s over 4 decades now?" And I said, Do you remember what we told you the first time you interviewed us? We said we just want to be warm for a long time. That's all. That was our goal. So
that's a great philosophy. Yeah.
Well, it worked for us because what it did is it made our decision-making process. It was never about the immediate. It was always about what the bigger picture and what it could lead to.
Right.
So, you know, in working with Patty Austin, that's the thing that introduced us to Quincy Jones, put us in the Quincy orbit, you know, SOS Band and Sherelle. And then we brought Alexander O'Neal to Clarence because, you know, he had sent us to do a project with a different singer. And we thought the singer was just okay. And we said, "Clarence, we got this guy, Alexander O'Neal. Can we put him on?" And he says, "Alexander O'Neal, what kind of name is that for a black man? Is he Irish?" I said, "No, he's not Irish. He's a black guy." But anyway, but we put him on the record and Clarence immediately signed him. He was like, "Oh, this is the guy." And signed him. So there were all kind of things, but some of it was planned. Some of it obviously is just fate and things that happen. But we were always we knew kind of what we wanted to do and kind of the way we saw things in the big picture. And one of the things was we always wanted to give each artist their own sound. We didn't want there to be like a Jam and Lewis sound. We wanted it to be a sound that was tailored for each artist.
Okay.
So that, you know, Janet sounded like Janet, Mary J. Blige sounded like Mary J. Blige, Sherelle sounded like Sherelle, Patti LaBelle sounded like Patti LaBelle, so on and so forth, is make that artist sound the best they could possibly sound. And that philosophy has, I think, contributed a lot to the longevity of our careers.
You did a lot of recording in Minneapolis, right?
Yeah, we did everything in Minneapolis. And it was funny because that was Terry Lewis's genius. When we had moved to LA. And Clarence had told us, one of the first things he told us was, "Don't look at the Hollywood sign when you're driving," you know, because the big Hollywood sign. He said, "Because you're going to crash." And what that meant was, as a metaphor, is don't get caught up in all this stuff.
Right.
And Terry said he felt like we weren't mature enough. A couple of, you know, guys from Minneapolis, which basically is a small town compared to LA. A couple of small town guys trying to do music, that being in LA with all the parties and all the different stuff, like that wasn't going to work for us.
Right.
We needed to go back where it was quiet and just put our nose to the grindstone and just make music.
Which can also be dangerous though, right?
Well, you mean not being in the middle of everything?
No, I'm saying going back to being successful and going back to your hometown. That's rather risky, isn't it?
Well, at that time, we weren't successful like you might think. I mean, we were beginning to blossom and things were beginning to happen. But once again, you can take that as great, but it also becomes pressure when you're not mature.
Right.
Because, you know, you're at that point, you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, you're fighting. You know, you get all the girls when you got a little something going on.
All the demons coming your way, yeah.
All the things coming at you.
Right.
You start losing interest in a lot of other things, and after a while, you're not working.
Yeah.
You start reading your own press.
Right, right.
You know, going back home was the safest thing because at home, they just recognized us basically for the people that we are.
Okay.
And
right. As opposed to for what we do.
Yes.
And the other thing too is that was important was that we were working with Sherelle on the first Sherelle record, and we were in LA, and the studio costs were crazy, and that was the other thing. Was there? She felt a lot of pressure because she had been a background singer, not so much a lead singer, and we felt like if we could get her in a comfortable environment, that would be great. So going to Minneapolis, we started working in this little studio in a basement of a house, but it was just this very little studio, but there was no pressure of, oh, we got to get stuff done. And I remember the very first record when we walked into that studio, the very first record we did was Didn't Mean to Turn You On.
Oh, wow.
And once that record happened, all of a sudden, Sherelle felt at ease. She felt great about everything. And then we were able to go ahead and make the rest of the record. So it was the right place to be at the right time, for sure.
Yeah, the difference between $1,000 a day and $80 a day, or $100.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that leads to another question I've always wanted to ask. Alexander O'Neal, I've heard this before, was originally the lead singer of the time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, Flight Time, actually.
Yeah, Flight Time.
It was called Flight Time. Okay.
Before the time, yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, and then what happened with that?
Well, there was a dinner that the story was that Morris basically, there was a song that Prince had called Party Up.
Mm-hmm.
And Morris was the one that actually wrote that song.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was Prince had, he had gone on the Dirty Mind album, he had gone a lot more rock and roll, more kind of new wave and that kind of thing. And I think Warner Brothers, the label, was a little bit like, no, we need another, funky song or whatever. So Prince basically just took Party Up and said, that's going to be my song. He took it, but then he said to Morris, put a band together and I'll get you a record deal. I think he offered Morris some money. Like he said, I'll either give you, I don't know, 50 grand or whatever, or I'll get you a record deal if you put a band together. And Morris said, no, I'll take the record deal. Mm-hmm. And then he came to our band, which was already together. Flight Time was already together as a band. And then basically said, I'm going to join the band. But he was joining as the drummer. Morris was joining as the drummer of the band. Mm-hmm. So we had this whole meeting, and Alexander O'Neal's at the meeting. And he basically, before Prince even starts telling us, here's the plan, he goes, well, Prince, a few things we need to talk about first, because, and he always talks, about it. Alexander O'Neal, he always calls himself, right? Third person. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Alexander O'Neal, I need a new house. I need a car. Alexander O'Neal, because, this is all cute and everything, Prince, this record deal that you're talking about, but, I need paper. I need the paper. Meaning he needed the cash, he needed money. And everybody's looking at Alex like, what the hell are you doing, man? We don't even have a deal yet. Like, what are you doing? And then they served the steak. It was at a restaurant. They put the steak down, and he goes, now I'm going to go ahead and throw down this here steak. And he starts eating it. And so Morris and Prince are like, they're done. They're out. They walk out. And it's like, uh-oh, we're done. And literally the next day, I don't know whether it was Terry. I don't know whether it was Morris that called Terry or Prince called you, Terry, and just said, Alexander O'Neal's out. Jellybean Johnson's the drummer. Morris is the lead singer. We're going to start rehearsing tomorrow. Whatever. Like he already in his head, he had already laid it out like a thing. And that was it. And we said to Alex, though, if we get a chance, if we make it, we're going to come back and get you.
Okay.
And we did.
Mm-hmm.
Once we got going with the time and we started producing, we went and got Alex, and then that's how he got his.
He's a phenomenal singer, but it's almost like where you were just imitating him reminds me of Morris Day. Yeah,
well, that's the thing. He had a lot of that kind of swagger, but it would have been a different thing, Mm-hmm. We actually cut songs. There's actually time songs with Alexander O'Neal singing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Actually, in the beginning, the name of the band was going to be called The Nerve. It was never the time.
Yep.
Like NERVE, Nerve?
Yeah, The Nerve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Another question I've always wanted to ask, my absolute favorite song, I have a couple of favorite songs, several favorite songs by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, but my absolute favorite song is Human. That is not a song. That is a production. I mean, if the Human League didn't even sing on it, I would have still loved it. I mean, it literally sounds like an orchestra, or it's like a soundtrack. I mean, it's so powerful. It's some of your absolute best work, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
It was an interesting experience because there was a lot of shock. I think on the Human League's part, and really on both of our parts, because that was once again John McClane, the person that was that hooked us up with Janet initially. And Human League was making a record, and the record that they were trying to make, basically, they were trying to make a Jam and Lewis record. And John McClane said, "Well, if you're trying to make a Jam and Lewis record, why don't you just get Jam and Lewis to do it?" And so he was the one that put us together. And they were from Sheffield, England.
Oh yeah.
So they came to Minneapolis in the middle of the winter and cold weather, which was a shock. But then it was just kind of a lot of I don't know, culture shock or whatever you want to call it. It was just it was interesting. But they were good. We enjoyed it. But when it came to Human, it was interesting because we had done the track. Terry did the amazing vocal with Phil Oakey, who was the lead singer. And the whole thing, if you knew any of the Human League music before Human, it was very robotic.
Right.
And like they had the Don't You Want Me, which was a big hit, but it was Don't You Want Me, baby.
Very new wave.
And the whole idea was to do something that sounded human, like with some soul to it. And I remember Terry worked on that lead vocal for probably a week. Like every day, just was in there grinding. Finally played the lead vocal, sounds great. So then Terry did the backgrounds, the ooh, human, that's Terry doing that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mr. Background. And, but then we had a girl named Lisa Keith.
I remember Lisa.
Keith, people may know from the song Making Love in the Rain. She's the lead singer on that we did for her album. And she also had her own album. But anyway, she was our background guru also. So she put this nice little texture and stuff on the vocal. So we played it for the group. And when we got done playing it, there were two girls in Human League, and one of them said, "Who's the other girl singing on the track?" And we said, "Oh, that's Lisa Keith. That's a girl, or whatever." Said, "I don't think we like the other girl singing on the track." "Oh, the other girl. We don't like the other girl." "Okay, we don't like the other girl." So anyway, whatever. The next day we come to the studio. Phil walks into the studio, the lead singer. He walks into the studio. He's got a funny look on his face. And we said, "What's up, Phil?" He goes, "I just have to say, we don't like the other girl on the track." And Terry and I kind of looked at each other like, "Huh?" He said, "I just have to say, we don't like the other girl on the track." Terry and I are kind of going, "You don't like the other girl on the track?" And he says, "Yes, I just have to say, we don't like the other." And we Terry and I said, "Oh, you just have to say. You don't like the other girl. We get it." But the reason he had to say that is because he was seeing one of the girls in the group.
Oh.
So we already knew what that was. We were like, okay, we get it. Okay. So anyway, we called the record company and we were basically like, we're just going to pull the song off the record. Because if you're not going to do it the right way, then we'll just do it. And what we ended up doing was we said, the songs we write, we'll finish the way we want them. The songs that you guys wrote, you finish them the way you want them. And we'll call it a truce. Because the record company was like, "No, you can't take that song off there. Oh my God, that's a single. No, you can't take it off." So anyway, it turned out really good. And the most brilliant, but here's the brilliant thing to me about the record. So because the girls were, didn't feel like they were included in the making of the record, Terry came up with the idea to have the spoken word part. One of the girls say.
Right.
But lyrically, it's so, to me, it's the whole, I don't know, brilliance or whatever you want to call it of the song to me is, here's a guy basically laying it out on the line that he was human and I'm sorry and, whatever, please forgive me, blah, blah, blah. And then she just goes, "While we were apart, I was human too." Oh, shit, you were human too? Oh, man. I mean, that changes everything, right? And I love that. When I remember when I heard that the first time, because Terry said, "Oh, I got something for the girls to do." And I'm like, okay, cool. And he put that vocal on there. I was like, that to me is, that's the song right there. That to me is
that is an absolute amazing piece of music. And like I said, they don't even have to sing on it. I mean, I just love the production. Another song that I really liked, and the singer didn't really go too far, was Rhonda Clark, "State of Attraction."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was when I first started in radio, and I remember we played it a lot. We were in Columbus, Georgia.
Yep.
Great record, but never heard too much more from her after that. She did I think a ballad after that or something.
Oh, "Stay Here, Stay Near."
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that song too.
Randy Rand.
Yeah, Randy Rand wrote that.
Okay.
Rest in peace, Randy Rand.
So
But
you had
Creative Attraction, yeah, man.
that was a great record.
Yeah.
What were there? Did you have like a rule that you would only do like one project per artist after a while? Because I know you did a lot of things with SOS and a lot of things with Janet. But as far as other projects, was it just like one time you would work with an artist? Something I would have never known that you did was Tender Love. I would have never known that was Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
How was the sound so different from your usual sound for that record? How'd you come up with that?
Well, that was because part of the reason was it was for a movie. It was for the movie Crush Group.
Right.
And the idea was that that's basically the love scene of the movie, like the one kind of quiet moment of that movie. And they sent us this scene of what they wanted the song written to. So basically the inspiration, if you will, was really from watching the scene and just kind of figuring out what kind of music to put with it. And it was interesting because we actually lyrically matched. The lyrics came from the scene. Like when he says in the song "Candles That Light the Dark," like literally in the scene there was candles being lit, and we laid this thing out. Like the song was totally laid out to the way the scene was, right? And I remember being so disappointed when the movie actually came out that they had cut that scene down, because I guess they figured that nobody wants to see a love scene in a hip hop movie. I guess, I don't really know. But anyway, they had cut the whole thing down, so then the scene was only like a minute long. So it was like, oh, it doesn't go with the scene anymore. But what that song did for us that was really great was, as you said, people didn't go, they weren't, oh, that's Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. But it was great because what it did is once that song became really successful, then all of a sudden it changed the asks that we got to do things, because people realized there was more than just doing a funky song, that we could actually do other things. And it was, so that was great. I mean, that was a pivotal thing. And Force MDs was great. I mean, they were, because when we did the song, we didn't know who we were doing it for. It was literally written for the scene of the movie. And then I think the movie company was the ones that said, we got this group Force MDs that's going to do it. And we were like, okay, cool. So
yeah, I think the soundtrack was on Tommy Boy at that point.
Right.
Well, the Force MDs was on Tommy Boy, and then the soundtrack was on Warner Brothers.
Yeah, Tommy Boy was at Warner.
Weren't they affiliated?
Yeah, but they were at Warner. Yes, you're right. Absolutely.
Okay. And so, Terry, I want to ask you a question. You guys know Clarence Avant very well.
Absolutely.
Did you saw the movie The Godfather?
Absolutely. Black Godfather.
One thing, Black Godfather, right. The one thing I was telling somebody the other day, I had a conversation that I did not get. He gave a lot to everybody. And that, I guess, was the lesson of the movie. But what did he get in return? That part was missing.
Well, I don't know if he, first of all, I don't think Clarence is a transactional person. Personally, I don't like people who are just totally transactional.
Right. Clarence
gives from his heart. And trust me, the blessings come back in other ways.
Absolutely.
Now, yeah, and for me, he's been probably the number one person in my life that's not my blood, that loved me unconditionally, taught me unconditionally, gave me unconditionally opportunity, and both of us actually, and taught us to give that way. And so what he got out of it was whatever he needed out of it, because that's what you do when you give. You give. I always tell people, if I loan you some money, I'm doing it for me, for you. I'm not doing it for you, for you. I'm not giving it, expecting it back.
Right.
So I think he helped Black people do things that they ordinarily wouldn't have done, because he was given opportunity by white people that were never given to Black people, and they taught him things that he never would have learned. Like he said, he never went to college. He was taught by these people in high places how to navigate the system. He was given access to things that, as he calls it, us's were never given. And he shared those things with everyone and allowed people to come through him to get to things that they could never reach. I mean, you got a man there, he managed and helped Bill Cosby, he helped Quincy Jones. And we're just talking, and just those two alone, that's not enough. Then he helped Jam and Lewis and Bill Withers and Babyface in L.A. and everybody else. Barry Gordy. He helped Barry Gordy. He helped so many people in this career. So
yeah, and eventually he helped, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama,
exactly.
and I mean, it's and Kamala Harris. I mean, it's like it's crazy his reach. But one of the things was when we sat down with him for the first time, he told us basically everything that we needed to know. Right? He told us that our manager wasn't asking for enough money for our services, number one, which was great. But he also told us, he asked us a couple questions. He said, what are you guys going to be doing in 7 years? And we said, oh, we're going to be making hits. And he said, no. But besides that, what are you going to be doing? And we said, what do you mean? And he said, you got to think about who's going to be running these companies. Like right now, you got Barry Gordy, you got myself, you got Dick Griffey, you got Lonnie Simmons, you got different people that are black executives that are running these companies. Who's going to be the next ones to do it? Think about that. Who's going to get on the boards of companies to run things? Who's going to get involved with organizations like the Grammys and ASCAP and BMI and these, type of organizations? Who's going to get involved politically? Who's going to get involved with, those? So those are the things he was putting on our minds. And then the other thing he said was, if there anybody, you come across somebody who's really talented for some reason, maybe their business is messed up or something's not right, introduce them to me. And I remember not that long after that, we met LA and Babyface. And LA said, would you introduce me to Clarence Avant? And we said, absolutely. And we said, Clarence, we called Clarence. We said, Clarence, remember you told us if we see somebody that might need some help, these guys, LA and Babyface. He said, okay, LA and Babyface. Okay. And he meets them. And of course, the rest is history on that side of things. The one thing, and even myself, I mean, I called him. I remember when I got asked to be on the ASCAP board, and I said, what do you think, Clarence? He said, got to get in there, man. Got to do that, man. We need to be in that room. There's none of us in that room. Like, okay. And I did it. And then, probably 5-6 years later, I became the chairman of the Recording Academy. And I was the first African-American to run the Recording Academy. And it was 50 years after it started. And those kinds of things wouldn't have happened without Clarence's guidance. Simple as that. And to answer your question, the one thing that Clarence did get, I know, because we gave it to him, a Rolls-Royce Corniche.
You know what? That I want to clarify, because Terry mentioned something about he doesn't like transactional people, and that's actually not what I was asking. I guess what I was asking is, and I'm sure you both have experienced this, where people will come and ask you for anything all the time. You get a lot of requests, and of course you can't help everybody. So you kind of answered the question when he said refer people to me who have talent, and then I'll take it from there. So that's the question I was really asking. It's like, how much can one person give, before they have nothing left? So when I say getting something in return, I'm like, you don't expect people to come back and say, hey, you did this for me, I'm gonna do this for you. But I've read stories, and I do a lot of reading, where people have given everything they had and got nothing in return, not even expecting anything in return, and ended up with nothing. So that's more or less what I was asking.
Yeah, no, he was well, and I had to say he is, because he's still out there and still, we had lunch probably a month ago, and he still's dropping the same knowledge and stuff that he has always done. But I think he really cares about people, and what he gets out of it is the idea of just connecting people.
Perhaps that's also why he wanted the low profile.
Yeah,
because if nobody knew him,
it's weird for him to even be in the spotlight. He always kept a very low profile. But his story was one that we always felt needed to be heard. And we know he was working on a book too. And he's also working on a book, I believe, of letters. Like, back in the day, whenever something would happen, you'd always get a letter. It wasn't an email, but you'd get a physical letter. And trust me, he has letters from anybody and everybody in history that you would ever want to know, who have all thanking him for doing things and putting deals together and doing those kinds of things, which I think would be really interesting to read. So there's all those kind of things that are happening, but there's no finer person and as Terry said, in our lives than Clarence.
That's
And
a good
he was
lesson.
the first person. We thank God, and then we thank Clarence.
Right.
He's like God on earth, right?
He's like the
For us.
Godfather. Okay, Black
He's the
Godfather.
Godfather. Thank
But
God,
you-
and thank the Godfather. Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, ultimately, if people show their appreciation, you know, even if it's in the form of a letter, it's just that, you know, I was just curious because that part was not in the movie.
Yeah,
And
I don't think he did it for appreciation. He did it because who else was going to do it? Like, that's why you do things. It's like, for us, I love making music. I love being creative. But we always say we like to make the music that people, not that they necessarily want it, but we feel that they need.
okay.
And you don't get the appreciation necessarily where everybody's feeling like, oh yeah, man, that's my jam, until they finally realize that, oh man, I didn't know that I needed that. That makes me feel good. Okay. Because that's not the first thing that you gravitate to. You go to the glitz, you go to the glamour, you go to the things that the world tells you are beautiful, and you lose your soul in that. So when you find something that you feel substantial that feeds your soul, you're like, oh, well, I love this forever. This is my forever love. And the rest, you know, comes and goes. Songs go and come. And Clarence is one of those things that he's been here. He's been here through generations. He's signed things, and he's been creative in ways that Black people in the other days couldn't be. So he was signing white boys before any other Black man was signing white boys,
Right.
and making records. You know, he was making such creative records, and even for us, like, he came into the studio and we thought we did an Alexander O'Neal album, and we picked the single. We thought we had the single. It was a ballad. Clarence came in and heard "Fake" and said, "That's the single." Like, really? All right. And he was right.
Yeah, totally.
He was
So
right.
is that the way you guys have always worked whenever you produce songs, that you've always done it from your perspective first? I mean, I'm sure people have come in and said, we wanted to sound like this, or we wanted to sound like that. How do you deal how did you deal with those kind of people?
Well, first of all, we're fans of all the people that we work with over the years. And so we kind of take a running tally of what we think as a fan we will want to hear. And then we try to create that scenario. But everybody comes in, you know, the saying that I have all the time is barber can't cut the back of his own head. So an artist can only see so much of themselves. And we're experiencing that right now as artists, because we've never had to see ourselves as artists. So, you know, somebody has to tell me, okay, so am I doing this right? Because I can only see, you know, my line in the front is kicking, but my kitchen is really messed up back here. So I need somebody to kind of guide me in this and tell me, am I missing something? Is that okay? Because you get a little unsure as an artist. That's why artists always jump around from sound to sound, from producer to producer, trying to figure out who they are. And the number one question is, okay, if you're an artist, and I say, okay, Kevin, what's the number one important ingredient to a Kevin Ross record? And you would say?
Percussion.
Yeah, you say the beat, the whatever. And that's what the artists do. But truly, the number one ingredient in a Kevin Ross record that makes it different from all other records is Kevin Ross.
Well, I could work that part out. You just give me a track and I'll figure that out.
but you see, is like you dynamically, you think outside of yourself. You don't even think of yourself, but you're the most important ingredient in whatever you do.
Right.
And
Terry,
so
who's the one person that said themselves? Was it Usher? Who was it that got that answer right? One person did, but I just can't remember who it is.
Somebody recently.
We said, what's the most important ingredient? And they said meat. And it's like, damn, you got it right. We were shocked because nobody had gotten it right over all the years we had asked the question.
Yeah, because it's one of those things, because you're looking outside of yourself to be saved. So, you know, you try to get all the answers somewhere else, but the answers lie within you.
You know, and I kind of look at it just a bit differently, because like I'm looking at a scene right now. I'm in Palm Springs. I'm looking at the mountains, and I'm also a painter. That inspires me to paint that. So the fact that I can see something, I have a visual, inspires me to create something. So that's why I say if I hear the percussion, I can say, okay, how can I work around that? That would be me. Somebody else might be, oh, it's my vocals or whatever else. So, but I get what you're saying. You're coming from, because of course you have the most experience. So
yeah, but the idea of inspiration though is part of the reason that we choose to work with an artist. There's a lot of great artists that we have no thought of that we can do a great song with them, or we have a desire to do a great song with them. I was telling somebody the other day, they were playing us something that we were listening to, and my opinion of it was that I either have two really strong thoughts. I either have a thought of, I love this so much, I can't wait to go in the studio with this person and create something. Or sometimes I feel like, I love this so much, I'm going to stay away from it so I don't ruin it. Right? And then there's this kind of a middle ground where it's just like, it doesn't inspire a song. When John McClain, and I'll bring his name up one more time, he gave us a list of the whole A&M Records roster. This is back in '85, basically. And he gave us the whole roster and said, who on the roster do you guys want to do? And our fingers went down the roster, and they both stopped at Janet Jackson. And we said,
not Jeffrey Osborne, not Vesta Williams, but
no, Janet. That's what we want to do. Because it was like, and he said, oh, cool, you want to do a couple songs? 3 songs? We said, no, we want to do the whole album. He was like, huh, really? It's like, yeah, because we knew. And, it's just, that's the way we feel. So the thing is that there's inspiration in all the stuff that we do. It's in some way the artist has inspired us to do something. If you think about our songs, our, classic songs, like you mentioned, Human wouldn't have been written without the Human League. They inspired that song to be written. I always think about New Edition because they're like our favorites, but the challenge of integrating Johnny Gill into the group, we not only knew that we needed to first come out with something that sounded like New Edition in people's minds, which was If It Is in Love. We knew Not My Kind of Girl, which was the second single, we could bring Johnny into it a little bit. And then Can You Stand the Rain, we could split them up. We could do basically You Make Me Feel Brand New, the stylistics, which was the kind of thought process of that. Have the low voice come in first, and then hear Ralph's voice and go, oh, it's New Edition. Oh, shoot. Who's that singing? Oh, Johnny Gill? Oh, really? There was a whole master plan to that. So, but that's all inspired. I mean, it's all just inspiration, man. So like like you say, you look at the mountain and you go, how am I going to paint that? How am I going to do that? That's the way we look at the artist. If we don't have that feeling like we can do a great job with it, we don't do it. The other piece of it is we don't do it, but we also will recommend who we think can do it. You know what I'm saying? Like we'll say, we're not the people for this job, but you should, or sometimes we just have the saying, we just say, we got 4 words for you. And they go, when we hear what they play, and we say, what's that? Put that shit out. Put that shit out. That's what we said to Pink when Pink played us her record. She was up there trying to do songs with us. They put that shit out. I just want to go buy that. I don't need to do anything on that record. And so there's all kind of examples of that, man. But it is inspiration. You brought it up. It is absolutely inspiration.
Have you ever done something that you didn't feel real good about, and it was still a massive hit?
Yeah. We were talking about it earlier today, as a matter of fact. Saturday Love.
Okay.
The one that always comes to mind.
I probably would have thought that too.
Yeah. When I came up with the initial idea, I had a little apartment and stuff. I just got this little apartment overlooking the city and stuff. It had a little piano, and I just kind of came up with a little music thing. And I just was like, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. This is really cool. Literally from the time I left my place, went to the studio, and I said to Terry, I was all excited. I said, Terry, I got this idea, man. And as I'm explaining it, I'm kind of feeling like, oh, this is really stupid. So he's like, how's it going? How's it going? I said, it's kind of like the days of the week. I said, no, it's like the days. It's kind of like Sesame Street. It's like, nah. Like I'm just like, I'm not even going for it. And Terry says, no, man, how's it go? So then I was like, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, love. And he was like, I love that. I love that. I love that. And so he started writing lyrics to it. And we got Sherelle right in and them to come sing it right away. But the thing that happened was something people don't notice this about the song, but when we went in, Sherelle came in and sang her part, right? When I think about you, right? She sings her part. Meanwhile, Terry's trying to come up with lyrics for Alex to sing and never comes up with anything, right? So we're like, well, what are we going to do? And Terry goes, just give us the same lyrics to Alex.
Right.
It's like, okay, cool. So then you give the same lyrics to Alex, and Alex says, when I think about you. Like he just sings them in a totally different way.
Right.
And we were like, cool. And I think at one point we thought, well, maybe we'll go back and change it. But then we just left it.
You really didn't even know.
Right.
It was that
People
good.
To this day, they go, they never realized that. But then the funny thing about it was, we had the single on that song, on that album, was a song called Just Be Good to Me. And so Just Be Good to Me was heading up the chart. We'd done a video for it, the whole deal. It's heading up the chart, gets around like 32 or something like that. It's on the Hot 100. It gets to like the 32, and it starts kind of coughing and losing momentum and losing the bullet. And we're like, what the heck is going on? And we talked to the promotion guy, and he said, oh, radio, they're playing the other song. I'm like, what's the other song? Saturday Love. We were like, Saturday Love? And that thing went straight to #1. We were like, okay. So
wow.
Radio knows better than us.
Yeah. And You Look Good to Me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Look good. What did I say, Terry?
Just Be Good to Me.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, what did they do? What did she do? Just be.
Yeah.
That was odd.
No, my bad. You look good to me. Yeah.
Okay.
That was the thing. You look good to me. Yep.
And what have you ever had? I know you can't tell me who it is, but have you ever worked with an artist that was extremely difficult that you'd never work with again, or one or two? That means yes.
not really, though, honestly. Well, there was an artist that came before Alex that we were working with that was replaced by Alex that was a little different.
Okay.
I'll say. But he was only difficult not because of his attitude, but just because he would never sing. He would always say his voice was skipping.
Yeah, it was always an excuse every day.
Okay.
We had the tracks to the songs, and we finally just put Alex on the tracks.
Okay.
The rest is history there. I think here's part of it. I think we do a pretty good job at choosing who to work with. We try to get to know people and kind of get a vibe, because you're going to spend a lot of time and a lot of work doing it. So you want it to be people who Terry calls it hang factor. People who you'd want to just be around whether you were working with them or not. So a lot of that goes into the decision-making process. So there's not really anybody that I can think of that we would just go, no, we'd never work with them again. Because most of the time, if that happened, it would be before we would even work with them. Like, I remember there was a girl, I don't even remember her name now, but there was a girl I remember we were going to start working with, and we spent one day in the studio just trying to come up with ideas. And she wasn't really vibing with the ideas and stuff. And we were just like, oh, you know what, forget it. And then we ended up taking those songs, and a couple of them ended up on Usher. Ended up being a big hit. So I think that's the thing that happens. And I will say now, because we're on good terms, but I remember when Ruben Studdard first won American Idol. Remember that? So he won American Idol. He was like the guy. And we were going to do a song with him. And I remember he was just a couple things. He showed up kind of late and just didn't want to sing certain things. And it was just kind of this whole kind of little attitude thing. And so we never said that, oh, we'll never work with you again. But we just kind of felt like, well, at this particular time, this is not the project for us to be involved with. But then, I don't know, 10, 15 years later, we ended up doing a whole album with him. And he's one of our favorite people now. You know, but even he said at that point in time, he just didn't know. It was just everything was happening to him, and he was all of a sudden famous. And
small town boy, he just couldn't handle. That's the maturity thing I'm telling you about.
Right.
So he was supposed to come to the studio. I say, well, we can do a session tomorrow. And he said, oh, well, I got a date. I'm like, a date?
Yeah. He could have been scared. I mean, I always got that from him too, because I know that he played football at one time, and I always wondered if he really wanted that.
Yeah, but it's how your priorities are set,
Right.
And if you're not mature enough, you definitely get caught up in believing the hype.
So, and a couple of other questions. I do want to ask you about your new project, but before we get to that, Did you think that you'd still be doing this long?
I don't think we thought we wouldn't be doing it.
Okay.
It's all we really know how to do. And I think we took a lot of time. We paced ourselves. I'll put it like that. I was mentioning to someone earlier today, that first of all, our aspiration always was to be warm for a long time. And I say that because one of the first interviews we did was with this columnist in Minnesota named John Breen, who's still writing, still a music writer. And around the time when Control came out, he was talking about, oh, you guys are the hottest producers and you're hot, 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 hot. And we said, we don't really want to be hot. We just like to be warm for a long time. So that was our mind. And I was reminded of that because we just celebrated the 5th anniversary of Unbreakable, which was the last album we did with Janet, and No Sleep being #1, which I think it stayed #1 for 12 weeks. But when the album came in at #1, No Sleep went to #1. He said, man, can you guys believe, you're still here, making music and stuff? And we said, yeah, John, remember what we told you in the very first interview? We just said warm for a long time. That's what we wanted to be. So part of being warm for a long time is actually living life. And we raised kids. And not only did we raise kids, we traveled the AAU circuit with our sons who both play basketball. Terry's son plays for USC now, college. My older son played for Arizona State. So we got a chance to really live life and raise our kids and have that time off. And I think that's part of it. I think we paced ourselves. So
you did it on your own terms.
Yeah, we as much as we could. And I mean, but we were always aware of it. I mean, we always took time to we loved going to all the basketball games we did. We just lived life. And we raised our kids and we did it, and we were in their lives, and that was always the priority. So like Terry said, I think priorities, you have to have your priorities straight. We knew what our priorities were. And then when the kids got, Terry's got one left in high school. All the other ones are, college grads. I have a college, my kids are all in college now. So now it's kind of like, now we can go back to doing music. We don't have to be Uber drivers. We don't have to, do all the parental things as much. And now we can go back to do music. And the fact that we're coming back to do music, but we're coming back from a very kind of satisfied place where our lives are at, but also we're coming from a knowledgeable place because we have all these years of experience of doing it. It's sort of the perfect storm for us right now. And we love it. I mean, we love doing music.
Okay. So tell me about the new project then. How did this come about? And exactly how does this work? Do you have a deal was it BMG?
Yeah.
And for your another label?
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Let me back up a little bit. Whatever happened with your other label? The first one.
We had Perspective?
Yeah.
So Perspective, which we had in the 90s, that was a partnership with A&M Records. And that was, of course, Sounds of Blackness and Mint Condition, Low Key, Solo, Mo Money soundtrack. Yeah, we had a lot of great records that came out of that era. Basically, the Perspective label, we've re-upped it again, along with Flight Time, which we always have used our original name of our band back in the day, Flight Time. So we it's Flight Time Perspective, BMG. And it's kind of, when we did the label, it was because there was music that we felt we wanted to do from a different perspective, if you will, meaning that we had a different viewpoint of where music should be. And sometimes, and Terry would always say, sometimes it's not the music that you want, but it's the music that you need. We did Sounds of Blackness. That was kind of the thing there, was we felt like there was something in music that was maybe missing, and we wanted to give it to people. And Sounds of Blackness was that. And to this day, I mean, if you think about the song Optimistic, it still has that same power in people to feel really good. And that to me is really the divineness of music, what music is.
A lot of members.
Yeah, a lot of members. But you know what? But it takes a lot of voices to make it sound like that, And so we just thought that was cool. So really, our philosophy now is very much the same. We want to make music that we feel people need.
Let me add, before you go on. So, with perspective, were you at the time? I mean, I know the label is didn't exist after that, but it's like, what happened? Were you not able, or were you not in a position to run a label at that time because you were doing so many other things, or what happened? I know that A&M eventually folded, but what happened to make you walk away from it the first time?
Well, we had a partnership with A&M.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about partnerships is when you talk about partnership, I'm spoiled whenever you say that word because my partner is Terry Lewis. And he's been my partner for, I don't know, 45 plus years. Okay. So when you talk about partnership, I have a different degree of expectation of what that is.
Okay.
The A&M partnership was wonderful in the beginning because it was the A and the M was Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss, the two principal guys. When they left, there was a new A&M that came in. It was Al Cafaro and Milt Olin. And their thing was much more of a business way of running things as opposed to just the music, let the music speak.
Right.
And that's fine. But we, it wasn't the way that we wanted to do business and the way that we wanted to partner with people.
Okay.
So we felt we were able to get some great records out. We were able to walk out the door with a #1 record, which was Mint Condition, What Kind of Man Would I Be? We took over the A&M Black Music Department at a time when they were shutting down Black music departments. We were able to have success with Barry White, Practice What You Preach, which ended up being a #1 song. So on and so
You
forth.
did that?
So we didn't produce it. But
Okay.
it was basically under our label, even though it said A&M. Our staff was the one that worked that record.
Okay.
So, but we had done what we had set out to do at that point in time, and there was no reason to go on with that. And so that was it. We did what we did.
So what's different this time?
I don't know so much that it's different other than, we have new partners, which is BMG, which we're excited about. But I don't know if there's a lot different, except that we're more experienced now. We kind of know what it is. But we're at a point in our careers where we feel like, I think when we did Perspective, there was always a sense that back in that day, there was something to prove to people. You're still trying to prove things to people and you're trying to do that. I think at this point in our careers, we have nothing to prove to anyone.
Yeah.
But we have a lot to say and a lot that we think we can influence and a lot of people we think we can empower and a lot of music we can do. I mean, I'll tell you just real quickly, as we move to the new project, when we did the song with Babyface, one of the things that was important for us to do was to have L.A. Reid come and listen to it. Because we know L.A. Reid is the ultimate Babyface fan. He's the ultimate Jam and Lewis fan. But he also, obviously, we feel like it's part of their legacy. Like we're with all these artists that we're working with for our project, we feel like we're their legacy. They're putting their legacy in our hands and going, whatever career we've built, we're now putting in your hands.
It's a lot of pressure.
We don't want to blow it. And remember, we played the song for LA, and when the song went off, he just said, I feel like a cavity has been filled in my soul where I didn't even know I had a cavity. I was like, wow. I said, that's nice. He said, yeah. He said, man, I've been listening to music and I've been enjoying music and I've been listening to it and I thought I was really enjoying it. But the way this record makes me feel, the way Babyface is singing on this and just the instrumentation and all the things you did, it's like, that's everything that music means to me. Like I'm feeling feelings about this song that I haven't felt about a song in ages. And it's like, good. So we felt, if he felt that way about it, and we felt that way about it, and Babyface, when he heard it, it was funny because Babyface hadn't heard it. He let us produce it. Like he literally took his producer hat off and said, you guys do it. And so when he heard it, he just said, man, that sounds really good. Like he was a little surprised maybe. So that, anyway, that I say all that to say that to me is that feeling that we can give the fans that feeling of when they hear that Babyface, that it takes them back to when they fell in love with Babyface the first time. But if we can give Babyface that feeling and make him fall, not that he's not in love with himself, but make him realize, hey, I'm Babyface. You know,
and I still got it.
yeah, exactly. And I think if we can do that, to me, then that is the most satisfying thing about this whole project, and that's what the project is.
So tell me more about the project. I mean, I know that it's very private because I asked if I could get a copy, and they said no.
Right. Well, it's still a work in progress.
Okay.
We have some songs that we pretty much feel are done, like totally done. But even then, we go back and sometimes we'll tweak a little something as we hear it. The thing that's taking a little bit longer on the project is we're basically doing not only stereo mixes, which you know you can hear, but we're also working on a technology for surround. We're going to mix in surround. So if you have a system in your car, in your house already, it will play in surround on your system. And we're also working on headphones that'll do the same thing, that'll give you that same experience. So the technology of it, along with the creativity of, you know, the artists that are there, we think is a great package. And what we want to do is really put the importance back on music, the value of music, because the ceremony of listening to music is no longer there, right? The ceremony of music was go to the record store, look through the bins, find your thing, you pull out this big, nice, big vinyl piece of art, you get it home, you take the shrink wrap off it, you take it out, you're careful not to get your fingerprints on it, you put it on, you might blow the needle off or whatever, and now you're reading the liner notes, the studio it was recorded at, who produced it, who wrote it. So now you're getting this whole thing, you're touching it, you're smelling it, you're watching your favorite label go around, if it's Atlantic or Motown or whatever. You've taken all of those things away. Now you press a button and pop, it's in your, it's in your ears. So we want to bring back a little bit of the idea of the ceremony of it, or at least give people the feeling of what that is.
The celebration.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids are into that. A lot of kids, have found that I still have a stereo that I found at the Goodwill that my babysitter used to have, and I had to have it. You're absolutely right. The whole concept, kids will never know, but they're working on it.
Yeah.
What it's like to go in the record store, smell the incense, see the 45s on the wall, and try to remember what song is what, see the radio station playlist, if you can't remember a song. And those are some of my best childhood experiences with my mother and father. It's a whole concept that they don't see. So and I can appreciate that.
And also even the credits. I mean, the fact that you could see credits, you'd actually see the writers, you'd see the studio it was recorded at, the engineer. Those are the things that really informed our education about music. So
remember they used to promote, they used to have their other artists, the albums, like when you pulled it out, it had like all the other featured artists on their label.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, all of those kinds of things, we want to try to bring a little bit of that, the feeling of that back.
Right.
And of course, the way technology is, I mean, I did a keynote speech for a organization the other day that's all about putting the credits back into music, right? So if you can pull up lyrics, right? If you go to Shazam or any of the technologies like that and pull up lyrics, why can't you pull up the liner notes of who recorded it, who wrote it, who produced it? Those to me are very relevant things. So we want to make sure that those things all are including in the album that we're putting together. And we're probably going to be out in March of next year, spring of next year. So
can you tell me who else you're working with?
Well, we can't really say for sure, but I can tell you that a lot of people a lot of friends we're working with.
Well, that narrows it down.
Yeah. So if you think about people who are friends of ours, who we enjoy working with.
That's my point.
Yeah. You might think of people like Janet or Boyz II Men or Usher or,
Cheryl Lynn, maybe.
Yeah, you might think of her.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think everybody's in play. But I think there's a lot of great things, and the most important thing for us is, once again, that Babyface has the most Babyface sounding record.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't mistake it.
Artist,
his voice
has that. Mm-hmm. Whatever that record is that you imagine that you would want to hear, that's the record we're making, that we're trying to do. That's the attempt.
Great. Go ahead, Terry.
Something that you want to invest in, like you want to become a part of. That's important. Music just kind of switched its position to being something that people coveted, and you took that ceremony and you took it seriously, and you wanted to share that shared listening experience with everyone. You wanted to put that out in the world and give it to everybody. But now it's just something. Music is something you vacuum to, and if you like this, you also like that. You don't even know what it is. It's just on in the background, and the vacuum is going. And so you got to get people to pay attention again.
Right. And I don't know if I'm saying this because I'm older now, because our parents said this at one time too, but it's like music is not what it used to be, in the sense that there are no legacy artists. No Dionne Warwicks, no Smokey Robinsons, no Gladys Knight and the Pips. I mean, you don't see that today. So I don't know who's going to be doing Vegas 20 years from now.
Well, there'll be somebody. I mean, there's always someone, and that's being built now. But if you think of what happened, first of all, it's a lot of things that contribute to that. You know, the mystique of music kind of went away, and the opportunity for music to be done by everybody. Everybody can do music now. You can do it from your bedroom.
Talent is no longer a requirement.
Well, it never was.
You don't think so?
No.
Yeah. Oh, you would know. But
I think the cards all lined up. I mean, technology kind of took a bunch of barriers away, but there was always a governor that would say someone was talented, and then they would put that person to the paces until that person became as talented as they needed to be to sell records.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but now the governor's not there anymore. So now everybody can just put it out. There's nobody telling us what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there were more talented people because you had to study more.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have computers that would do things for you.
Mm-hmm.
You actually had to play.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't really sample things, but I don't think that's a bad thing to sample things. So I think there's talent in all of it. And I always say that there's a hit song in every single person on earth, except maybe not two. And can you get it out? That's the problem. Can you get that hit song out of that person?
Who's the most phenomenal singer? Then give me like 3 singers that you've worked with that absolutely blew you away in the studio.
Patty Austin, Alexander O'Neal, and Michael Jackson. That'll be my 3.
What about you, Jimmy?
Well, Michael is the one that pops into mind when you say blew us away in the studio. It's got to be Michael. Matter of fact, not to try to get out of your question, but I'll tell you a quick Michael Jackson story. So when we were going into the stream with him and Janet together, we had written the song. Everything was cool. We played him a bunch of tracks. Janet already predicted that's the one he's going to like out of the tracks we came up with. So anyway, we go in the studio, and Michael's very kind of subdued and kind of like just kind of walking around like, hey, everybody doing it? You know? but he's jingling. He's got all kind of jewelry on, and he's got like boots on, and he's got like just all the things in a studio. It's supposed to be quiet, right? You're not really supposed to have, bangles on and all that kind of stuff, right? So he goes in, and we go, Mike, can you hear everything okay? And he goes, yeah, everything sounds good. Just go ahead and play the track for me. So we go, okay. And Janet is sitting like right behind us, right? So the idea was Michael's going to sing the song and then sing it down, and then Janet's going to go in and sing her part. And we're in New York, by the way. We're working in New York at the Hit Factory, I think was the studio. So we press play, and all of a sudden it's like the Tasmanian devil comes out. He's spinning like the room and snapping and dancing, and we're sitting there like, like we were just like fans, like we were just totally fans. And so he goes and he sings the whole song, start to finish. And when it goes off, there's like just silence because we're like stunned. How was that? And we're like, yeah, Mike. Yeah, that's good. He goes, you want me to do it again? Yeah, go ahead and do it. Yeah, do another take. Yeah, that's cool, right? So we're getting ready to play it again. Janet leans into us over our shoulder, and she just goes, because we're in New York, remember, and she goes, I'll do my vocal in Minneapolis. She was no part of following Michael. You couldn't do
want that, no.
Yeah. And of course, the funny thing was, we went to Minneapolis, we did the vocal with Janet. We sent it to Michael, and Michael said, wow, Janet sounds really good. And I said, oh yeah, thanks, Michael. Yeah, she killed it. She sounds really good. Yeah, Mike. Yeah, she did a good job. Yeah. she sounds really good. Where did she record her vocal? And we said, Minneapolis. He said, oh, I want to come to Minneapolis and do my vocal. So he did. And, you know, it was great. But there was like sibling rivalry. Even, you know, they loved each other. But, you know, Michael was very competitive. You know, he wanted to make sure his vocal was great, you know, because hers was so great. And, but it was so fantastic to do that. But he's the one that absolutely just blew me away. I will say, and I agree with the people that Terry said. The two I'm going to say Janet, and I'm going to say Ralph Tresvant. And I'm going to say it because I stack vocals when I do my vocal, all my harmony things that I do. I always stack very kind of unorthodox notes that shouldn't really go together. So the singer has to kind of trust that they work. And if you listen to the background vocals of Ralph Tresvant on something like Sensitivity,
it's a great song.
You listen to Janet's vocals on something like Love Will Never Do. Those are like literally 35, 40 vocal tracks of just backgrounds.
Oh, wow.
And both Ralph and Janet have this. First of all, they share the same birthday, which is ironic. But they are by far my favorite background singers for stacking background harmonies and stuff. They do such a beautiful job of doing it. And it takes so much concentration to do that. And they're both the same way. Like they won't leave. It's like, no, they will get it done, you know? So I would say that.
Why not just bring in background singers?
Say that again?
Why not just bring in background singers? Because that has to be very time consuming.
Well, it is. But what it is we want the record to sound like the artist.
Okay.
So in the case of both really Ralph and Janet, it was always in our mind that they did their own background. So that kind of like with Ralph, the template for us was very much like Marvin Gaye.
Oh,
if
yeah.
you think about the Marvin Gaye records, you don't really hear other vocalists on Marvin Gaye records. He's doing all the vocals for the most part. And that was kind of the idea with Ralph. And Janet was just kind of the same thing. We just wanted her vocal to be we wanted it to be a Janet Jackson record. Like that's what you hear is Janet Jackson.
I got you.
Yeah, that was the philosophy.
You know, you just had me think of something. Had Prince ever come to you and said, I want you to do my next album, would you have done it?
Absolutely. And actually we had that conversation just a few months before he passed. You know, we went to visit him and he sat down and we talked, and he said, you know, be selfish. If you could do anything in the world with me, what would you do? I was like, shit, I'd do a record. You're like, he said, your place or mine. Now, we never got to figuring out whose place, but that would have definitely been a really fun project to do. Just because of our sensibilities and his sensibilities. And it's all your mentors giving you reins to do something that you've always wanted to do, which would be to work with him again. You know, because we always, nothing but love and respect for Prince. Like the greatest artist that I've seen in my lifetime.
Mine too.
Okay. So I know you guys have other things to do. I'm gonna wrap. I could just talk to you all day, but I do want to say I need to figure out who I need to contact to get that CD with all your cuts on it. I've been trying to find that forever.
Right.
What did it came out? I know it had to come out like 20 years ago.
Yes, it did. As a matter of fact, we did that we were being honored by TJ Martell Foundation. And we needed to have something to put in a gift bag. And we thought it would be fun to put, I think it had 72 songs of ours on there. I've
got to have that.
For 4 CD set. And I'll tell you, it's really funny. I'll tell you, I don't even know whether we have any more of those. They exist on eBay. I
haven't seen it.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it on eBay.
And I don't want a used one.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I want something brand new, like we talked about, something that I could just take the plastic off and whatever else.
Exactly.
What label was that done on?
Maybe we can figure something out. But I mean, the thing is, we didn't know that they were going to be, you know, that coveted. And but I remember when we met Tiger Woods back a long time ago, we donated a couple of the CD packages for an auction that he was doing for his foundation. and they went for, I think they went for 5,000 a piece or something like that.
Wow.
And that's when we were like, oh, okay, well, people like this. Okay, great. So that's what we did with a lot of them, went to charities and that kind of stuff. But I don't even know. We probably have some sitting around somewhere. So if we do, you'll definitely
I would absolutely appreciate it, because I had a couple, but you know how you let people come by your house and
Yes.
things just magically disappear when the CDs used to disappear on you.
Yeah.
So that's what happened with those.
Got an empty jewel case.
Yeah, right.
You got four CD jewel cases.
You know what? That is so funny, because I've had that happen. I remember one time I went to go play at SOS. I was so ready. I mean, had everything set up and it was just empty. And I was like, now that's a dirty thief, right? Just take the whole thing. But yeah, that's good. But so did you guys did we miss anything? Did you want to talk about anything else?
No. Did we talk about the new record at all?
We didn't talk about, we talked about Babyface and everything else. We didn't, I don't know if you wanted to go into more detail about it.
No, I would like to say that, you know, working with Babyface was like a dream come true.
Okay.
We had always, you know, admired him. Back in the day, we used to go to dinner together, and with LA and stuff, and people would go, like, they'd see us like at a restaurant or something, and they go, wait, aren't you Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis? And we go, yeah. And they go, aren't you LA and Babyface? Yeah. And y'all are having dinner together? Like, because everybody thought it was this whole, you know,
rivalry,
drag out fight, you know, thing. But we had so much respect for us, and you know, we were, you know, as we talked about, I think we were the people that actually introduced them to Clarence and got them going. So it was always a lot of love, but to actually work with him, it was like so far beyond just what we thought it could be. Just, you know, when I mentioned the words hang factor, we just hung, and we came up with a bunch of songs actually, but it was just, the hang factor was so amazing, and the stories and the fact that we shared so many things kind of on our journey together. We both came from bands. We came from, you know, Midwest towns. He was Indianapolis. We were.
I think he was Ohio.
Yeah. Huh?
He was Ohio, wasn't he?
Well, the group came out of Ohio, but he was born in Indianapolis.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
He's actually has there's a highway. I don't know, it's called Babyface Highway or Kenny Highway in Indianapolis.
Okay.
So that's his hometown. And the first time that the deal, I mean, obviously the time for us, the deal for him, and the deal was, you know, he said they were trying to be the time. That's what they were trying to do. And I remember they came and played at First Avenue in Minneapolis and did that, and we saw him there and that. But then even things like interesting things over our careers, like we produced the Johnny Gill record together. You know, we did Rub You the Right Way. They did My Fair Weather Friend. Then we did, you know, Wrap My Body Tight and stuff. So we ended up with like 4 #1 records, just kind of flipping back and forth. And even things like Boyz II Men, they had I'll Make Love to You, which was replaced in #1 with On Bended Knee, which was our song. And there's all kind of little parallels throughout our career that we were destined to work together at some point in time. And sometimes you get scared to get with that person that you feel so highly about. But it was so far beyond what we thought it was going to be. And we loved it. So we can't wait to work together again. You know, we're glad that this project came out and people seem to be loving it, and couldn't be more happy.
Is this going to be the only single with him on the album?
Yeah, at least that's the plan right now. It's because it's basically different artists for every song.
Right, that's what I thought.
But we, you know, we were very creative together, and we have other songs. So who knows? They will see the light of day at some point.
Okay, great. Any more work with Janet or?
Yeah, stay tuned for the Jam and Lewis album.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I just got another hint. Okay. All right. Great. So I guess that I did have another couple of questions, but I don't want to hold you too long. I know that we've talked forever, and I greatly enjoy the conversation. I'd love to see a movie about.
All that is. We've just been around for so damn long.
I want to see your movie.
Oh, like a documentary thing?
Yeah.
When it's time, it'll happen.
Do you have a lot of video?
We do, but probably not as much as a lot of people do, because we never allowed cameras in the studio when we were working. it was always very distracting.
Right.
You know, it's not nowadays. It's just a cell phone, and it's real simple to do. You take your iPhone and just do it. But back in the day, you know, you had to have lights set up. So we would have the studio would be all nice and, you know, dark and whatever. And all of a sudden they come in with all these lights and stuff. The only time I remember that working, by the way, was we were doing the Spice Girls, recording the Spice Girls in London. And I remember there was Posh Spice, who, and we used to joke with them because every day, literally, we'd open up the paper every day and they'd be like on the cover of the newspaper every single day for something, right? They were that popular. And, but I remember going to the studio one day and we were trying to get Posh to sing this part and she wasn't really quite nailing it right. And we were kind of like, whatever. So then the camera crew comes in, they set up all the cameras, they set up all the lights, and we hit record and she kills this part, like just totally nails it. And it's like, oh, see, that's the opposite of what we think. We think it should be intimate and dark. She's like, no, turn the spotlight on, and now I'm ready to perform.
Okay,
and we ended up getting her whole vocal that we needed in that session with all the cameras and all the lights. So that was kind of ironic, but we didn't do a whole lot of filming back in the day. But we do have a few things that I think are interesting. So,
do you get any requests from rappers to use your samples?
All the time.
And what is your response to that?
Absolutely. I mean, the one that was probably the most impactful was a few years back when Drake and Kendrick Lamar used Anytime, Any Place for Poetic Justice. That was a huge record for them and very cool. I mean, today we have, not a rapper, but the artist Her, who we love, has Damage, which is basically Making Love in the Rain that we did with Herb Alpert back in the day, that she used as kind of the template for her new song. So that's kind of cool. And then even things that are kind of a little more obscure that people maybe don't think about, but like the song Work that Rihanna did. The track on that was based on sort of a track of Alexander O'Neal, If You Were Here Tonight.
Right.
People don't really think of that, but if you listen to the song and you hear that little part, that's from that song.
Wow.
So we love the influence of sampling, both that we've done a lot of sampling of other people's songs, obviously, but that people have come back and sampled ours. So we
got it. Do you still stay in touch with the SOS Band?
Absolutely.
How's Mary doing?
I think she's doing better. I know she had some health issue.
Right.
I think she's doing good. We talked to Abdul Rauf. We talked to yesterday, as a matter of fact. He congratulated us on the new record, and so yeah. But we do talk to them, from time to time. And last year we just celebrated the anniversary of our Soul Train Awards performance and getting the award last year. With Babyface presented us with the award. But we had SOS Band perform.
I remember that was good. Yeah.
We loved that, man. It was funny to go back and watch that a year later. I mean, all the changes that have happened in this year. Right. I guess that was actually last decade, technically.
Yeah. Right.
But it's weird to see that crowd and that audience together, doing the line dances and just, it was so fun. And to have Alexander O'Neal and Sherelle reunited on stage, to have Ann Nesby, reunited with Sounds of Blackness and have the voices that actually sang that optimistic and
see, there's your movie. There's your movie right there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we need to get working on that. So definitely want to see a Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis movie. All right, well, I guess that's pretty much it. And we pretty much covered everything. And I'm going to hold you to the CD situation.
Yeah, we're going to try to find you one, brother.
I'll remind you about that. I'm going to look myself because I didn't check eBay, but I think I checked Amazon.
Yeah.
But I've wanted that. I mean, I've never been able to replace it. So, but thank you so much for your time. And like I said, I could talk forever. I'm sure you got a lot of great stories to tell, but I know you've already done you've been up really early, right? Did some radio interviews?
Yeah, I think we started at 5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For the East Coast.
Right.
Yeah, I said to Terry and I are laughing because we're like, this artist stuff, man, I don't know about this artist stuff. Normally we finish the record. We finish the record and we're done with it and we just move on to the next thing. And now it's like, no, we finished the record and it's like, oh, now I got to promote it. You can promote it and make a video. They just literally, as we're talking, they just emailed the music video for us to take a look at. So, I mean, it's all the kind of things that we've never really had to think about. We told the director of the video too. We said, this is our first video. I know you're treating us like we've been in a bunch of videos, but for us as artists, this is our first one. So,
I'm telling you, when I worked in radio and did the morning show, that was the number one complaint from artists. They hated it. Having to get up or call that early, and you could tell that they, had been out late the night before performing or whatever else. So that's always been a complaint, to get up early in the morning.
The better thing back in that day, in our younger days, we would just stay up all night.
That's what I'm saying. So oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like we wouldn't even go to bed. We had to leave at 5 a.m. Because a lot of times we would feel like we didn't put in a good day's work if we weren't seeing the sun come up when we were coming home.
But you can't do that now. At this age, no.
Things that I used to do.
You can, but we don't. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
I know, right? Well, once again, I really appreciate it, and I'll definitely make sure you get a copy of the issue. And after I get my copy of the CD. No, I'm just kidding. I'll make sure I send you several copies. I'll find the CD. Don't worry about it.
Well, we can find it for you. We will.
I know you will. All right. Well, thank you very much once again. I mean, this has got to be one of the best interviews I've ever done in 25 years.
Wow. Thank you, Kevin. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. I can't believe we haven't actually met because we've been
never crossed paths just once. Wow. That's it. And the way things are looking now, I don't know if we'll ever have the situations like we used to in LA.
Well, at least we got this. At least we got Zoom.
Absolutely. All right. Well, both of you take care. And like I said, thanks again. And we'll talk soon.